Ready for the mosh pit, Shaka Bra.
What's up, everyone? Welcome back to StrangeCast, Player One vs. World's Life is Strange podcast. I'm your host, Adnan. The only time I rarely get to say that as well, because my co-host, Adam, is not here, unfortunately. But I was able to replace him with mischief, mayhem, chaos, among many other words. Kylie Brown is here. You've probably seen all our posts as well, asking questions, whatnot. And she's also tweeted something which caught our eye back in August, but we finally got her on in November. Recording November, we'll be out in December. But Kylie, welcome. How are you?
I'm doing well. Thank you for having me. How are you?
I'm great. I'm ecstatic, and I'm so happy that we got you back on here. It was a long time coming, and obviously there's a little bit of an elephant in the room that we'll talk about, which was that tweet that caught our eye anyway. But we're very excited to have you on here nonetheless, and obviously so many things to talk about, including a lot of fan questions as well. And thank you to everyone who submitted. We won't be able to get to all of them because there was a lot of them. I wasn't expecting as many as we did, but we got some of the great ones out, so we'll definitely be asking Callie those questions. But before we start, if you are new here, please do consider dropping a subscribe, turn on notifications, like the video, and share with your friends. It helps you support the YouTube channel. And StrangeCast is available on all podcast services, so check us out on Spotify with a video version, Apple Podcasts, we're on everything. That out of the way. Kylie, hello. We are recording in mid to late November. This is going to go out in early December. However, I love Halloween in late October. I know that you like Halloween. What did you dress up as at Halloween?
I dressed up. So my best friend came out for Halloween, and we dressed up as Maverick and Goose. It was great. We literally bought the outfits like an hour before the party that we went to. And yeah, we just kind of threw it together, and it was nice. She's the goose to my Maverick.
It was a good costume. I also saw one where you had an orange wig, and I was like, is she gone as Ice Spice as Halloween? But I was like, actually, maybe that's next Halloween.
Yeah, that wig was from my other friends who were at the party, that they dressed up as the stepbrothers. And so they had wigs on, and she wanted to take the wig off, and I was like, oh my God, let me put it on. So I put it on, and that's where those photos came from.
Fair enough. No, but as I said, I was looking at that first time around, I was like, is she going as Ice Spice as Halloween? I was like, no, I need to now address this on the podcast and find out what she actually went as. But it was a great costume, and as I said, I kind of want to start off with Halloween because that's a good point, but also something else as well, and we'll kind of come on to some of these topics later on. I enjoy working out sometimes. I go for a run, and then on my music, I sometimes have this guy called Adam Evalt and his music on there. And there's a album that he has called The Essence of Life, which sometimes I hear Kylie Brown's lines come about through there. And he's not here to promote his music and also to ask you about the album and everything else. But I wanted to ask you, that was a different project from anything that like I've kind of known you from, and that was just through Adam talking to you. But I wanted to know, what was it like when you like spoke to him, how he pitched the idea, this character that he created called Neoma. Again, the album's called The Essence of Life. You can check it out on all podcasts, on all streaming services, so go and check it out. But what was it like when you got involved in that project?
It was really cool that he would think of me. He just reached out through email and kind of pitched the whole thing to me, what his idea was, and sent me the script, told me to read it over, and if I liked it, that if I could record some of the lines. And that's exactly what I did. So I sent him I think I sent him a couple of takes, and I was just like, I don't know if these are good, but here you go. Let me know if you have any ideas or changes or anything like that. And then he was like, no, these are great. Thank you. And then a couple months or maybe 1 month, I don't remember, but some time went by, and then he sent me the final product, and I was just like, oh, this is so cool. And then I went to the song that you were just talking about, and how he had composed that, and that was really, really cool to listen to. Yeah.
Well, I'm glad that you got involved with that project, because I'll give you the behind the scenes as well with me, Adam. After we last spoke on StrangeCast, he was like utterly convinced that you'd play this character. He was like, I can't hear anyone else play it, and he was like, so you're like, I need to reach out to her. He's like, I can't get a hold of her, and so I was like, here's her email. It's like, go and send her a message, see if you can get a hold of her. But he was like, utterly, he's like, I can't hear Neoma. He's like, this has to be Kylie Brown. So I'm glad that you got involved with that. And obviously I've really enjoyed listening to it. And it's, again, listeners, go and check out, because if you want to hear Kylie in music, it's there on all music services. And check out Adam's new album as well, because it's out as well. So otherwise you'll get annoyed that I'm not promoting this. But
Yeah.
with that said as well, did you have like any musical background? Because I know that was just kind of like him scripting lines and his music's different in the way that he does things. But do you have like any musical background? Do you play any instruments?
I do. I actually have a very musical background. So my mom played flute, guitar, piano, all of that. And so she kind of taught me how to play piano, how to read music. Guitar, I was never able to actually pick up, but I did try. And so then when I got to, I want to say like 6th grade, that's when band was kind of introduced to us. And so I wanted to try doing flute because I knew how to read the music. Piano and flute music are the exact same. So I was able to kind of, copy that over basically and be like, oh, I know how to read this. Okay, cool. And then start doing the flute. And honestly, this is so bad. I feel so bad that I'm about to say this because my mom would be so disappointed in me. When I was in 6th grade and we were picking our instruments, it wasn't only just because I knew how to read the music already. It was because my friends and I picked flute to put the flute on our middle finger and just do like the ultimate flip off to everyone. And then when I got to middle school is when I started to take flute a little bit more seriously because I actually genuinely love the sound of it and I loved the sound of the band together. So I was playing that instrument and then jazz band got introduced. So I started to go into jazz band and I loved drums. So I started to play the drum set and learning all of that. I took lessons from this drum instructor that literally lived right down the street from me. So that was kind of nice. I would just walk to my lessons. Sometimes my mom would come and we would have like a jam out session because he would play guitar, my mom would play guitar, and I would just be on the drum set playing. And then when I got to high school, my parents bought me my first actual drum set and I would practice all the time. And I took band in high school and did marching band. I played drums. I was on the drum line in marching band. And then when we did concert season, I would play flute. So I did like a bunch of like other stuff and I sing. So it was just all of this music I just absolutely loved and I still love dearly. Like for my 21st birthday, I went to the Hollywood Bowl to go see Game of Thrones in concert. Like I had like my first beer there with my parents to go see that because I enjoy that music so much. So yes, I do have a very musical background.
I forgot the legal age drinking is 21 in the US. It's
Mhm.
18 here, so that's actually completely forgot about that. But by the way, did the music influence? I know you said that it has your mum's side on there, but was it influenced by like the desire to get into acting? Because I'm convinced now that every actor can play a musical instrument. Because I don't think I've ever met an actor who doesn't have some musical instrument background.
I think it's just the artistic side of it. Like every actor is artistic. And what comes with that is meddling in the different facets of the artistic world, whether that's painting, singing, instruments, like whatever kind of artistic thing that you can think of. I'm sure that every actor has some sort of outlet in that area as well. And I've always been very, very into the artistic world. So I took ceramics when I was in high school because I liked, molding the clay into different things. I feel so bad that my teacher probably hated me or liked me for this. I don't know. I never did the assignments. I just was like we had an entire final of like what we were supposed to make, and there was a step by step of what we were supposed to make. And I literally went up to my teacher and I was like, "Hey, I really want to make this instead. Can this count for my final?" And he was just like, "Yeah, that's fine." And so I would do something completely different because I wanted to do my own thing. I ended up making like this. I don't even know it was a vase. It was a vase, but I did a lot of drawing on it. So I made like this mermaid that kind of wrapped around into like this like flower thing, and I actually gave that to my acting teacher at the time. But yeah.
I think that's why he probably didn't like get involved, because he's like, I'm just going to leave her be and let her do what she needs to do. She'll create something and eventually we're on to a winner here. No, that's all quite interesting. And you mentioned something there as well before that, which always caught my ear. And it was in the last conversation as well that you love musical orchestras for like films, TVs. Have you been to anything recently?
Yeah, I mean, I go to the Hollywood Bowl a lot. My parents and I kind of make that a thing, like a nice little family night out. And the last thing I went to was Star Wars in concert.
No.
And before that was Disney in concert. Then before that was John Williams. And before that,
how was John Williams?
yeah.
How was that?
That was so cool. Everybody came with like wands or lightsabers, and it was the cool. I wish I brought my wand. I literally have a wand, and it's fantastic.
You're a Harry Potter fan?
Yes.
I don't know. Well, usually, because obviously I'm from like the UK, I usually stay away from Harry Potter and Americans, because otherwise I get like all the questions. It's like, is that how England looks? I'm like, no. I'm like, no, it doesn't. There's certain parts that look very similar, but no, that's like a dream fantasy.
Oh, that's funny. Yeah, I've been to London before. It's not like that. I mean, to me when I went through it, but yeah, no, Harry Potter and I are tight. I will watch the first one. The first one is literally my favorite. I know that movie word for word, and I'm not even kidding. I am that annoying person that will recite it word for word. It's bad.
Do you think it's your favorite one? Is it the best one? Do you say?
I don't know that it's the best one, but it is my favorite one. And I think it's mainly because
I think it's 3.
3 is really good. I would say 3 or 4 are probably the best ones, in my opinion. But I just really like the first one because they're kids, and it's the magic is at like an all-time high. Like the magic feeling is at an all-time high. They're in the school. They're all dealing with like school stuff. Versus in the later films, like all of their issues are now outside of the school, or they're not even in the school anymore. And it's still really great. The films are fantastic, but I think the first one is definitely my favorite because it's just like so innocent and magical and like just so nice.
It's color, isn't it? They get very dark later on. I like the kind of like Christopher Columbus kind of original Harry Potter film. It's just nice and warm and bubbly, aside from when Harry's getting strangled near the end of the film, but like it's still quite nice. Nonetheless. By the way, I lived in York for a little bit when I went to university there, and in there as well, like, do you know where Diagon Alley is in the first film? That's based on an area in York in the town centre called the Shambles. So when you walk down it, it looks eerily similar, like that scene from Diagon Alley, just for a little bit.
Oh my god, I love that.
Yeah, it's looks exactly the exact same of it. If you ever look it up online, York Shambles, it looks the exact same as what you see in Diagon Alley. So just a little bit of a mention there. But anyway, because obviously we can talk about Harry Potter, we can talk about Game of Thrones, we can talk about a lot of things here. But there was that elephant in the room, which was that in August, Kylie was on Twitter, and we learned in the last episode, it was like Kylie just is a quiet person on Twitter. She doesn't tweet, but she's on there. And then there was that little tweet. I was like on my phone thinking, I was like, what is she up to here? And there was a tweet in August from Kylie, and it says, I quote, "I need your guys' help with something. What is your favorite scene of Rachel Amber? Question mark. Big fan of the apostrophe after guys. Not a big fan of favorite being spelled that way. Just to give a bit of context there. But to start with, I wanted to know what help did she need from that tweet? Where's cryptic there.
I know. I was working on revamping my voiceover demo reel. And I genuinely was like, I don't know, because I know that I have favorites of the scenes, but I'm biased. So it's like, what better way to think about what like casting directors will be in tune to or like will pay attention to than to ask everybody who's actually played and have loved those scenes for their own reasons. So there was a lot of replies, and it helped so much because it was all the same type of scene. There was like 3 main scenes, and it was the Tempest, the bedroom, and the at night after the Tempest. Like those 3
Mm.
scenes were like the top. So I was like, oh, okay, cool. I'll use those. So it was for my own selfish needs, but it was genuinely really cool to see what touched people in those moments. And like that was really cool. So thank you everybody for helping me on that.
Well, case solved on that. Did you put all 3 of those scenes in the demo reel, or did you?
I did.
Oh. And how
Yeah.
would you rank those scenes as well on a scale of 1 to 3? 3 being
Ooh.
the top tier.
3 being the best.
Actually, 1 being the best. That'd be a better way.
One.
1 being the best. Yeah.
I would say, shoot, that's really hard. I love the bedroom scene. That one's gonna have to be my top. And then I would say the nighttime after the Tempest is number 2, and then the Tempest is number 3.
The Tempest is number. Oh wow, that is.
But look,
surprising.
it's because I'm biased because filming it sucked. Because I have to be an iambic pentameter, whatever that is. And I haven't done that since high school when we were reading Shakespeare. So it was hard to film. It's a lovely scene, and it's so good, and it's so vulnerable and rich and like very present with each other, and I love it for that. It's just because I'm biased, and this is why I ask for everybody for help, because because I look at it differently. So that's how I would rank that.
To pick your brains on that as well, because obviously it's a bit of time. Did you see any like replies from that in terms of scenes which other people picked out that you were quite surprised? Because obviously those are the kind of 3. Even I think I picked Tempest as well in there. But it's like, was there anything that kind of caught you off guard where someone said something completely different, if you remember?
Oh man, I don't remember, but I know that there was. And I feel like it was like some sort of like short, quick cutscene that somebody had mentioned. And not that it caught me off guard, but it was like an outlier to the mass. And so that was kind of cool. Another person wrote, I think like the forest fire scene, which I love. I love that scene, but for a voiceover reel, it goes too slow. So that's what kind of sucks with that, is like the pace in a reel has to be kind of quick, because our attention spans are so short now, especially with social media being present. So you got to catch really quickly. And as much as I loved the forest fire scene, it was too slow of a pace. But truth be told, when I tell people about the game, about Life is Strange, and if they're not aware of it, or if they don't know, if they haven't seen any scenes from it, I tell them to watch the forest fire scene or the bedroom scene. I tell them to watch one or both of those, because those are my favorites.
Here's a difficult one. So we take the forest fire scene, because obviously the scream had to be done in those multiple takes, and then obviously the Tempest, and you had to use cadence for that and dealing with everything else. Which was the more difficult one to do?
Ooh. Oh, that's a good question. They were both hard. I think hard for different reasons though, because the scream, I wasn't aware of what was happening in that scene, because the way that voice acting is filmed, you have your lines that you film, and then on a separate thing is you have like grunts, breathing, scream, all of that, and you film that separately. So the screen was so out of context. And so I don't practice my screaming on a daily basis. So I just did like a quick, like kind of a thing. And they were like, oh yeah, no, this is a little bit more dramatic. So then I try a more dramatic scream. And then they're like, well, okay, you're burning a forest down. So like there's a literal tree on fire in front of you. So we want a very like, try to prolong the scream and then turn it into a cry. And I was just like, oh, okay. I try to do that, and then they show me the actual scene of it, and it's still early development of the animation of it, so it's very like blocky almost. And then I was like, oh, okay, I see what's happening. And then that's when we got the scream, and we did that a couple times. So that was hard in the sense that like it was out of context and then slowly got to piece it together and then we got there. And two, I've never actually like screamed into a mic before, and I've always thought not to do that. So I would also like turn away as I'm screaming, and they're like, "Okay, turn back." Like we have to get it in the mic, and I'm like, I don't want to pop the sound, and they're like, well, that's what our engineer here is for, because they can adjust that. And I was like, all right, cool. But then the Tempest scene was hard just because it was almost like a tongue twister sometimes. Or with Shakespeare, it's all about finding the meaning of the words, like the underlining message behind the sentence. And so that was a lot of working through like, okay, what is, just trying to be specific with it. What is Rachel trying to get across to Chloe within this sentence? And we would kind of take it step by step, and then keeping that message while being in tempo and saying the correct words. So that was like, it was hard. It was difficult in a different way.
No, I understand about the Tempest part, because funnily enough, when we had the other series that we did, Life After Strange, I spoke to Dana's actor, Mara Corsini, and she's professionally trained in Shakespeare. She knows all the stuff. But even then, she was like, you can't just take cadence and then me then do a Shakespearean performance for this young 16-year-old girl. She's like, you have to kind of make it a little bit more subtle and a bit, grittier. So I don't think you're alone in terms of the experience you had from that. But obviously it delivered, and Big Philip Bark delivered on that as well, and Hello Philip as well. We've seen him floating around a couple of times. He's working a current project in Montreal with a couple of people from Don't Nod. Very excited to see that. Nonetheless, Kylie, if you were replying to your own tweet, what scene would you have picked? And on top of that, is your favourite scene still the same as it was 7 years ago? Is it 7 years ago? 6 years ago? God, I feel old. 6 years ago.
Oh my god. Yeah, it would be the forest scene or the bedroom scene. One of those two. It's still, and that's still the same from when it came out, when I first watched it as a viewer. Maybe oh man. The forest scene.
Yeah.
Just love it because it does take its time. It is a slower pace. It's allowed to, like, the emotions and the vulnerability, and there's also like there's tension and awkwardness and hesitancy to say something, and it just, the whole scene, I love that they allowed it to breathe, I think that's really what I love about it. So it's not necessarily about what was said. It's more about, for me, it's more about the in-betweens and like their moments together in between that. And where Chloe is like, do I go to like hug her? Do I ask if she's okay? Or do I stay quiet? And it's very much real life of like, ooh, is this a person that wants a hug and comfort during this? Or is this a person that needs some space and they still feel comforted by that? And it's just this like, and then just like pure raw emotion explosion. And I think that's truly why I love it so much. Yeah.
Here's something for you then, because you have experience now doing mocap with WWE each year, right? And obviously this was all a project which was VO, but since then even Deck 9 has moved on to performance capture, like the new Life is Strange that they did, and their other games. Say if like you had done those two scenes, like the Tempest, the fire scene, the forest fire, do you think it would have been more easier to do if you had the physical aspect, if you were in a mocap suit and then kind of interacting and adding the visual aids into the experience? Do you think it would have been an easier kind of way to do it in, when we're just talking about in hindsight?
100%. 100%. And I'll go back to the scream where I am doing the physical, like when you scream, like your body does something, but I would turn away from the mic. And that's where being in the booth, you have to be specific with how you're turning your head. And so it is kind of a little restricting in that sense, physicality wise. So if I were to be doing mocap with that, I think that really would have helped in those moments. And two, with the motion capture, you have the other actors with you. For most things, you have the other actors with you so you can interact. And I know for a fact that would have helped as well, to have someone to bounce off of. Like if I was with Rihanna, our emotions, we would have been feeding off of each other. And I think that would have been really nice as well.
Oh, absolutely. You can only dream what would happen there. Maybe one day they remake it one day. You never know.
Yeah.
But to be a bit cruel here as well and switch gears as well, I'm going to be cruel. If Kylie had to pass on Rachel Amber to a new actor, the baton has to be passed on. What parting advice would you give to said person? And obviously, let me just preface as well, I could never ever hear Rachel Amber not being Kylie Brown. So just to cover myself there. Like,
Yeah. Oh man. You cut me deep, man. You cut me deep. Because now I'm like, I don't want to let her go. I think passing advice is
you can just say, don't fuck up, by the way.
No, I truly, like, to just be a little sentimental here, is just love her without judgment. Like, truly just give her all of your full love and support, and really try to get to know her without judgment. Because I know that there can be judgment if you're coming in and reading the script and seeing how she might interact with certain people, or switch up gears really quickly, or stuff like that. You can be quick to judge as an actor. You can judge your character. And I think the best thing to do when you go in and you're reading and you're trying to understand this character is no judgment, because this is a living, breathing person that you're trying to encapsulate. And if this was you, you wouldn't want people judging you, because you're reacting, and you're reacting to real life situations that, we don't always have control of our emotions. We don't always have control about what we say. And then we think in hindsight, like, maybe I shouldn't have said that. So it's like, we're all just very human, and we make mistakes, and we are just raw and real and lovable in so many ways. And so that would be my parting advice, is just love unconditionally and love without judgment of this character.
No, I like that, because for context as well, like, I wanted the actor thing, because since we last spoke, they had the Life is Strange Remastered collection, and technically Rachel Amber now has a third face. Anastasia Davidson did the facial capture for the remastered. I just wanted to ask you, like, have you seen any of the cutscenes that they did in the remastered collection for Rachel in Before the Storm? And then, generally speaking, what do you feel like when they keep adding like layered actors to this? So it's like, you're the voice, and for everyone will ever know you the voice, but then Danielle Vivartis did all your motion capturing Before the Storm, and then Anastasia came in and did your facial capture. And in itself as well, we learned it's so difficult because she like matched you, like she was in the studio matching everything you were doing word for word. So it's like she's like putting her full performance at that. And they both obviously spoke very highly of you, but she said like she'd be there and they'd be like, it'd have to be specific because your voice is already recorded and lips have to be completely synced with it.
I actually didn't know that.
Yeah, me and Adam had Anastasia on, and we were blown away because like she auditioned for that role, she got it, and Danielle Vivartis, who did the motion capture for Rachel Before Storm, auditioned for it, but she didn't get it. So instead, it went to Anastasia, who went and did it, and she did all your facial capture for that. But then in itself, obviously, it's still the same dialogue, it's still the same stuff that you did with Philip Bark, but she's like now matching it during a recording, so it has to be like spot on.
Whoa. So I knew that she had gotten the role. I saw a little clip from when you guys had interviewed her. So I was aware of that. I actually, which is so dumb of me to think about this, but like I didn't realize that they had my audio as she was doing it. Like, of course they're going to have to do that. But that's what I didn't know. No, that's interesting. And I think, I think that's just the most on point thing for her character, for Rachel, because like we say, she's multifaceted, she's like a chameleon, and it's kind of cool that all of these different people are now becoming Rachel. And so I think it's kind of cool that we have 3 different people as Rachel. I think that's pretty on brand, honestly. So I find that funny. But I think everyone's been doing a very wonderful job with everything. And I haven't seen the remastered version with her. I saw some BTS of it when she was filming it.
Mhm.
But I haven't actually seen the final product, but I know that everybody's been doing a really good job with it.
They have, and she did a great job as well. Stace was great for that, and it does look nice after all the patches they've done and improved it as well. So it is one worthwhile looking at. But to be even more cruel as well, say if Kylie had to, well, you signed up for this. Usually, usually you have to ignore my messages and not come on the podcast. Well, and by the way, as well, I'm asking like really unorthodox and out of the box question because me and Kylie have like sat down 4 or 5 times for many interviews. You can go and read them, you can go and watch them, and I don't want to be a dead horse with the same questions. But I'm taking you here now at like 25, 6 years on from BTS. If you had to rate your performance on a scale of 1 to 10, how would you rate it? And also as well, considering you've got older in a good way, older with experience, with like everything that you know, would there be anything you'd do differently if you had the same chance now if you'd walked into the booth?
Yes. Scale of 1 to 10, I would say 7.58. I'm very hypercritical as well. And because we're always learning and getting better in our craft, yeah, I would go back and would like to have a second chance at some of the things.
Let's
Knowing
just
that.
address that first. By the way, sorry to interrupt. Like that, there's a very hypercritical score that you gave yourself. I was like expecting to be like, I'm just 10. Be like, no, very hypercritical score. What did younger Kylie do, which didn't like doctor a couple of points there?
I think it was just because that was my first ever voiceover job
Right.
ever. I had no idea what I was doing. Day one in the booth, they were like, all right, we're going to go for an A and a B take. And I was just like, I don't know what that is. So I think now just over the course of these last few years, last 6 years, I guess, I've done a lot more voiceover. I've gotten a lot more comfortable in the booth with the mic, playing around with some different things, different voices, and knowing now, or knowing what I know now. I think if I were able to go back, I feel like there would be a little bit more comfortability in that arena, so I could dive a little bit deeper in certain things. So it's not necessarily my acting. I think it was more so just now I know what I was getting myself into with that. If I don't know if that makes sense.
No, it does make sense. I get it. Obviously, as I said, like you when I spoke to you first time, you're 19, and it feels like a lifetime ago that as well. So it's very early to get into an industry, and that was your like a breakthrough role as well in the video game industry, which was kind of unheard of at the time as well.
Yeah.
So just wanted to pitch you a hypothetical, and I'm not trying to replace you just for context here, but I wanted to kind of pitch you a hypothetical. So let's say we fast forward to 2027, heaven forbid, but we're talking like that's 10 years on from BTS's release, and let's say hypothetically Square Enix remakes Before the Storm. It seems to be the trend in the video game industry to remake everything. But like they're rebuilding this from the ground up. They're not going to do VO again. If they're going to do a full-on remake, it'll be like full performance capture, etc. You'd probably have to audition for Rachel. You might not even get it, but because they might be like, you're not the motion capture build for it. You've done motion captures, very character specific. But I want to ask, if you like, that opportunity came up as well, would you consider auditioning for Rachel's mom? And then if you had the chance and they remade it, do you think, what would you kind of want to add to Rachel's mom? Because she's a little bit, in my eyes, she's a little bit drab in that game. I think like there's more you can flesh out of her in like a remake if you were going to do it.
Her
I'm sorry
real
for making
mom
you feel old.
her wait, are
Oh,
you talking about her real mom?
actually, either.
Ooh.
Which one would you want to play if you got the chance?
Ooh, I don't know. Maybe I kind of want to do. I think it'd be cool to be her real mom.
Mm.
Yeah, that would be interesting to do. But I would probably bring more of like, I don't know what I would bring to that. Hopefully a little bit more like um mysteriousness. But yeah, no, that would be very interesting to see them remake it. I think first and foremost, I would try to go for Rachel again. But then if I wasn't able to get that role and it went to someone better fitting for her, then I would try to go for the mother.
If it makes you feel better as well, I'd assume they'd ADR your voice in as well, because there's no chance they're going to put anyone else's voice in that character. They're definitely
Right.
ADR for performance. It's not a question for that.
I agree. Yeah.
Okay. What about her other mum? Her not her biological mum. Like, what did you make of her? Like, if you wanted to, I feel like they could be adding more depth towards her. She seems a little bit just quiet at times. But do you think, like, if you took that role, and what would you kind of want to explore a bit more with Rachel's non-biological mother? Would you want like a scene where they kind of like two of them are talking together, a bit more fleshed out?
I think I would want there to be moments between her and Rachel that are very sincere and vulnerable, but you can feel a sense of guilt coming from the mom. You know, I feel like that would be because there's a secret that she's keeping from this child who she has helped raise as her own, but is not her own. And Rachel thinking that that is her biological mother. There is, I'm sure, a sense of guilt that she hasn't been truthful to her. So I think I'd like to see a little bit more of like undertones of that guilt, but deep, deep love in those moments.
Perfectly put. And I'm going to change the gears completely on this conversation, because
All
in
right.
the last episode we did a Life is Strange Mount Rushmore, me and Adam, but we did it specifically on the criteria of a Mount Rushmore, the original concept. However, I'm going to change it here. I'm going to ask Kylie to build a Mount Rushmore of Life is Strange characters, her personal favourites. Who would be the 4 faces on there? You can choose any character from any game, any series. You can put Rachel on 4 times if you want.
um, I
Rachel
would
can be
say
included, by the way, as well. Just
can't.
she can.
Oh yeah, Rachel.
Yeah.
So my first one's Rachel. Chloe, Max, and honestly, Steph. I would love to see a good Steph up there too.
That's yeah. So it's a BTS collection.
Yeah,
Straight
basically.
on BTS. By the way, what did you think of the kind of evolution of Steph in that entire arc? Because like obviously she went from very small character in BTS, then just the evolution of like, you know, almost a secondary character in True Colors, if not like, you know, the dual character with Alex Chen.
Mhm.
But what did you make of that journey? And then for Katie to go off that way as well.
Oh, I am so happy for Katie and Steph as a character being able to, you know, go deeper in on who Steph is and opening up a storyline of her life and just develop that even more. And I think that is a really cool thing to see. And you know, obviously Katie's my friend, so I'm rooting her on as well. So I'm like, yeah, let's go. Like
That's
yeah,
the
so my
perfect.
laptop did not work today, so I have you on my phone and I just kicked the table that I was on. So
I'm keeping that. That's staying in the
you.
record.
Thank you. I feel like there's something that always happens every time.
Always. I've never had like anything like from a technological standpoint. It's always a nightmare recording something. So that is the perfect addition to this show so far. But as well, speaking of technology, because one of the things that's kind of like really come in the industry last year and has really become a prevalent thing for your line of work is AI. I kind of want to know what your standpoint is on AI and how you feel, because at this point, for example, I could go onto YouTube, grab all of Kylie Brown's lines from Rachel Amber and etc., because it's just her original voice, and then start generating all kinds of Rachel Amber content without her permission. And it seems very deeply unethical, or it is deeply unethical. But I want to know where Kylie feels about the position of AI.
It's inevitable, honestly, that this is happening because technology has been developing at such a fast rate. So AI is going to be a part of our life, and that's something that we are now going to have to adapt to, and that's why we went on strike, is to figure out the rules of this, because it's very new and we don't want that to start taking our jobs or start taking advantage of what we do. So having that being said, I don't necessarily think, I'm not on board with it entirely. I think with like CGI for like
Mm.
on-screen movies and TV shows and all of that kind of stuff, CGI has helped in boosting a scene in a movie. I think
Mm-hmm.
AI can help boost voiceover in that realm. Meaning, if let's say a take is like if I say something and it's a little bit mumbled, but like we have to move on, or maybe in post they're like, oh no, like something happened to the audio file. Can we bring her in? No, she's not available. Let's get this tool so we can just correct it
Mm-hmm.
in that way. And I think if they used it in that way, I'm totally cool with that. But I've had some voice actor friends who have done auditions, and next thing they know, they're hearing themselves on a commercial. And they're
Mm.
like, wait, I didn't film this commercial. What is this? And they realize that those words that the commercial is saying is from their audition. And then on top of that was added in from AI using that voice and
Mm.
just maybe changing the pitch or whatever. And I think that's taking advantage of voice actors, and I don't think that's okay at all. The other weird thing is I had somebody that was doing a holographic show, like a concert of a deceased singer, and they were using AI to have her say some things in the beginning of the show and whatnot, or like they cleared up something that she maybe had already actually previously said, but it was a little bit, the crowd was too loud or something like that. So then they went back in and kind of touched it up, and that I think is weird. I think that's very, very weird. I
Yeah.
don't like that. Even Robin Williams' daughter has come out and said that she's seen a video of her deceased father going around the internet, and it's like a new video and he's like saying something, and she was just taken aback and was traumatized a little bit from that. And I like that's what we're getting into.
Mm.
That's why I'm like, AI is inevitable, technology is here, that's what's going to be happening now. So now it's our job to be like, hey, there has to be some guidelines, there has to be some boundaries, because this what's happening is not okay. It's not okay. It'll be interesting to see how everything plays out, but that's my standpoint on it.
No, I completely understand it, because like we've had other actors on here, and we even had Zachary Andrews on here, who's Deck Nine's performance director for The Expanse, and he was talking about, and he said like, he's like, we could use AI here, and then obviously one of the actors who worked with Erica Mori, who's Alex Chen, was like, no, she's like, you can't use AI. She's like completely against it. And I've always been freaked out when dead people turn up in films, like when Carrie Fisher's there in Star Wars. Even as CGI, it feels weird for me to see that. And then obviously with AI, you can kind of create a voice with it. Just out of curiosity, you kind of like alluded there are ways to work around. Do you think there could be a way where it's like, for example, it can kind of be like a time capsule as well? Because like your voice is going to change over time. It's like when you were playing, my voice is going at this point, and when you were playing Rachel at like 19, it was a different voice, a little bit different from now. Like when you get older, your voice is going to keep changing. But do you think there's a kind of way where you as an actor can kind of like record tons of lines, or like record so much at a certain point and then kind of like use it as a time capsule and then reuse it for other performances? Say if you had like a master license over it, so you could kind of like distribute it. So for example, you could record all this stuff, you own the master rights to it, and then you could license it out to people if you wanted to. Do you think there's a kind of like a workaround for it? Because that would kind of mean that you could be a Rachel Amber for the rest of your life at that point, because like if they made animated series, they could use your voice, but having paid royalties, etc.
I think if it's my voice and I sell it, if I'm the one that
Mm-hmm.
is selling my voice to the people that I consent to, basically, and I am reimbursed for that recording, um like fairly paid, not just
Mhm.
like here's $20, thanks, and then they use it for years on end, like, but a fair pay for
Mhm.
this. I think that's fine. I think it's when actors unknowingly, like with AI now, they're wanting to do body scans of people and just pay them up front and no residuals or anything, but just pay them up front. And then they are able to use the likeness of that person for background characters anywhere, anyhow, for as long as they want. They
Mm.
own your image. I do not think that's okay. If
No.
that actor themselves have done like a body scan and they're like, you know what, if these people want to do it, like pay me fairly, give me residuals if that's the line, if that's what we're trying to do. But if they are the ones that are in control of selling them, if I am in control of selling me,
Mhm.
and I am paid fairly for that, I think then that's okay. It's just when people steal stuff like that and then just are like, here's $20, thanks. Like that's where I don't think it's okay. But if you're in control of it and you make those decisions, then and you know what you're getting yourself into, then I think it's okay.
I completely agree, and hopefully things kind of like start to resolve themselves because obviously you alluded to it in the conversation. 2023 has been a hell of a year for acting as well in the industry. Like SAG's been on strike, and for me as well, I saw the SAG strikes. Life is Strange was affected for it. For example, like some of those actors didn't reprise any of their roles in Before the Storm when SAG was on strike. The Writers Guild of America was on strike as well at the same time. This is the first time in history both of them were on strike. What was it like when you saw that? And then also we kind of spoke a little bit off podcast as well. You aren't SAG, but potentially is there any consideration for you to join SAG? Because obviously there are a lot of protection rights that you have as an actor if you get into SAG.
Yeah, I want to join SAG. It's not a matter of if, it's just a matter of when is the right time for me. So basically, I am a SAG must join. So what that means is I'm able to join SAG. I've already done SAG jobs, so I've gotten Taft-Hartley from a movie that I did in Kentucky. They basically paid a fee for me to become SAG eligible.
Mm-hmm.
There's other ways around that. You can get vouchers, and I think you have to get like 3 vouchers, and then that adds up to being SAG eligible or something like that. But if you book a SAG job with lines, like if you're a character that actually speaks, and in this movie I was one of the leads, then you get Taft-Hartley, and you're just immediately SAG eligible. After that, you can only do so many SAG jobs. It's basically green light. There's
Mm-hmm.
like a green light period where you can do X amount of SAG jobs. After that, you're not allowed to do any SAG jobs until you join SAG. And that's currently where I'm at. I've done too many, and now they're like, hey, you cannot do any more SAG jobs unless you join. So that's kind of where I'm at right now. A lot of the voiceover stuff that I've done has been non-union, which has been great. It also adds to my resume because right now I might be like a semi big fish in a little pond. Once I make the jump to SAG, I'm going to be a very, very, very small fish in a very big ocean.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's also kind of the reason I've been holding off, is because I want to build that resume a little bit more so that when I jump into the ocean, I'm not going to just be like unseen. I would like for my resume to look impressive for when I make that jump.
It's also as well in between that whilst you're talking as well, like if you are a SAG member as well, for example, you might be withheld on roles because if strikes happen, then you are also on strike. So then your work is cut down, isn't it?
Yeah. And that's the other thing, which again, like being a part of a union is so great because they do look after you, and there's a lot of benefits to joining SAG and being in the union. And when they go on strike, it's hard. Don't get me wrong. I have a lot of actor friends who solely rely on the income of acting, that it was tough. But at the end of that, it's so worth it because they are going to be treated a lot more fairly in this new realm of streaming platforms and AI and everything that's coming out. So it's the strikes, as grueling as they are 100% worth it. So that I'm not too scared of when it comes to joining SAG.
Mm-hmm.
But I am scared that the number of projects that I'll be working on will go down. The quality, I think, will go up, obviously,
Yeah.
because you're not going to be doing as much non-union stuff, but and non-union stuff can be fantastic. Like I literally, Life is Strange, non-union, WWE, non-union, a lot of stuff that have been non-union that have been incredible. But I definitely do want to join SAG at some point when it's right.
Fingers crossed it happens. Obviously, when it happens as well, because it was that with I had arguments with people about this, SAG strikes and the Writers Guild people. Like, you see like Sean Penn or someone outside, like picking, like he's already getting paid enough. It's like he's not the person there. Like he's there to support his brethren who like the smaller percentage of people who don't get paid as much as him. Like you have to remember, there's so many actors, all those commercials you watch, all those games you play. Those actors aren't making Sean Penn money or Margot Robbie money. They're making different kinds of money, and they're like struggling to kind of make it into that industry. So hopefully things change. It's a better 2024 ahead. But
Yeah.
we'll move away from acting for the moment, because Kylie's had a little bit of a different lifestyle change as well, because she's also a personal trainer now as well. She's a bit of a gym rat. I kind of wanted to know how you got into personal training.
That I also fell into. Wow, I'm really I haven't really been making a lot of choices in my life. I've just kind of fallen into a lot of things. With that, when I first came out to LA, I was working as a hostess at California Pizza Kitchen on Hollywood and Highland, and hated it. And then, but I was still living in Hollywood. I was quite literally living in Hollywood, which also sucks. I'm now living outside of Hollywood. I'm in the Valley, which is wonderful. But I would work out at 24 Hour Fitness, and there was one on Sunset Boulevard. And I walked in and I really wanted a personal trainer. Like I wanted a personal trainer. And the manager came up to me and they're like, why don't you become a personal trainer? You look like a personal trainer. Come be a personal trainer. And I was like, okay, I'm going to quit my job and I'll come work for you. And so they started me as a sales counselor for membership while I got my certification. But then that job didn't end up working out, and I started working at a different gym, and I worked front desk at that gym. And it wasn't until I came back to working, because the other gym was out in Santa Monica and I wanted to work a little bit closer. So now I'm working at a different gym, and they brought me on as a personal trainer, and that's kind of where that's been at. And I got my certification during the pandemic. So when the pandemic was over, I came back on as a trainer. I've been doing that since then, and it's been really nice.
That is, and also because obviously I'm a little bit clueless about it. What does your day in the life look like as a personal trainer? Unleash us free. Yeah, there we go. There's the big deep breath. Here we go.
Some days can look very long. I can be working from 7:30 a.m. to 8 p.m. and I'll have an hour or two in the middle of that day to work out for myself, try to go get some food, come back, continue training. 8 o'clock rolls around, I go home, I go to bed. Other days it can look very light. Like today I only had 2 clients, and my first one was at 10 and the other one was at 11:30, and that's it. And then I'm done for my day, which is very nice. And then the really, really nice thing is I control my own schedule. So I can shift things around. I can take holidays off. Or if I have an audition or if I'm filming something, I can rearrange people. That is very nice. Having that control over my schedule like that is really nice. And I love my clients and they're so great. And I love the training aspect, because fitness is a big part of my life. It always has been. I've always been a part of sports. So this is a really nice job that I get to have in the meantime of pursuing the acting as well.
So, like, say if I hired you out as my personal trainer, what would you offer me? Like,
What do you mean?
I don't know. Like, I don't know like what a personal trainer. I've heard the title and like the name. I don't know what you do for me. Like, do you like set people's like schedules out, like a training regime? Like, what do you do? Like, what's the process with that?
Well, basically the process would be if you were to come to me and ask for help in certain areas, or just to, whatever your goals are, I would ask first, what are your goals? Do you have any health concerns or injuries? You know, what are your eating habits like? What are you currently doing for exercise? And then based on your answers, that's when I talk about like how many days a week you should be coming in, what those days should look like. I'm also a nutritionist, so then I would also help guide you on what types of foods, how much caloric intake you should be having every day, versus the output of your exercise and how that's going to equate to either gaining weight or losing weight or maintaining. And so we would kind of like sit down and have one-on-ones to figure out a personalized plan with that. I'm actually training Katy too.
That is actually on here as well, by the way. I was going to say,
Yeah.
how have you found working with Katy on this?
Yeah, I've been training her for a bit now. I haven't seen her this week because she's out of town. But yeah, it's kind of nice because I get to see her twice a week, Monday and Friday. So we get to kind of just like talk about things, and that's really fun to do. And she's
Have
a
you yelled
beast.
at her yet?
Yeah.
Yeah, right. How did she take that?
Because there's times where we'll be doing something and her back will start to kind of come hunched. And if we're lifting weight, I'm like, Katy, straighten your back. Straighten your back. And I send her some videos on Instagram that make fun of like straightening the back. And I'll send her some of that too. But yeah, so that's really the only thing, is that sometimes her back will start to bend and I'm like, but no, she's wonderful. She works really hard, and I'm happy that I get to spend more time with her like that.
Well, did she like have any interest into getting in? Like, did she work out? Did she do gym stuff, or was it just because she saw that you'd got into it, she wanted to like get you as her PT, and then has now got interested in it?
From what she has told me, she would go on walks, but she never went to the gym because she hates the gym. I also train her here at my apartment complex gym because she hates the gym. So, but through that, because she's never done any type of weightlifting before in the sense that we're doing it, and on like a regulated schedule like what we're doing. But she's told me, she like took her first gym selfie and she was like, I get it now. And like we'll be working out and she'll be like flexing and like popping muscles, and she's like, I get it and I really enjoy it. And so the times that like we're not able to see each other, she gets like not anxious, but like, I want to work out. Like my body wants to like work out right now. And it's because she's on the regulated clock, like your body clock. Just like if you wake up at 6 a.m. every single day, and then on your day off, when you don't have an alarm set, your body naturally wakes you up around that time still, because you've just gotten into that routine. So because we work out the same day at the same time, she starts to get like, okay, I'm ready to work out now. And she's out of town, and she texted me. She was like, hey, my sister and I, we actually did some things to work out while we're over here and blah, blah, blah. And I was like, that's dope. That's really cool. So I was very happy.
Katy does have a sister.
She said somebody. I thought she said sister.
Oh,
Does she
well,
not have a
'cause
sister?
well, a lot of people have like become mistrusting of Katy because she's used to visit family a long distance away when she was recording True Colors. She like disappeared for like a while, and people now believe when Katy disappears something, she's doing some Life is Strange play.
Oh my god, that's hilarious.
Imagine she does. Yeah, that sounds like hell for me, because like I think your PT schedule would probably kill me. I'd probably be like eating a cheeseburger at McDonald's and you'd be watching through the window angrily. So I'll have to dodge on that.
Oh my god.
Do you ever find like working out a good mental health reliever? Because I picked up running about 5 years ago, and I did it because I was losing a lot of weight, and I did lose a lot of weight from it, but I still do it now because I find it probably the most detoxing mental health thing. But have you ever found that way you've like worked out just kind of be like a mental health reliever?
Oh yeah, I mean, I've cried mid-workout before. I'm dead serious. There's times where it's like if I'm just really stressed, or if something's happening and I'm really sad, or just any sort of emotion that is kind of getting bottled up in my body, when you start to lift heavy weight, and it releases endorphins in your body, and then in turn, if you have a lot of anxiety or depression or just overwhelmed in a sense, when you start to lift weights, your body has to release some sort of thing to be able to support weight. And then it just kind of brings out, I've had clients start crying in our during our workouts because they're just so stressed out, and then lifting weights just allows you to release that. So it is a relief, and there is a sense, because like I work out 6 days a week and it's really nice. I mean, but I work there 6 days a week, so
Yeah.
there's no excuse for me. So but there is a release, and it is nice. And whenever I start to feel anxious or sad or angry or anything like that, or even just happy, I look forward to working out because it releases those emotions and feelings in a very healthy way.
That is all interesting. And I've got one other topic I want to do outside of the PT. Then I'll obviously loads of fan questions. But to kind of wrap up on the PT stuff, 6 days a week working in a gym works out, you have your own thing. But I will believe that Kylie Brown has an ultimate cheat meal. No one can live that lifestyle without having cracking points. What is Kylie Brown's cheat meal when she has her ultimate cheat meal outside of a strict diet?
Taco Bell. I'm not even gonna lie, Taco Bell. I will eat Taco Bell whenever I can. And I order a lot on their menu, and I will chow down, and it's nice.
Do you eat more because obviously you're doing this lifestyle, obviously?
No, not necessarily. I stay in a caloric deficit because I am still trying to cut a little bit more. So I do, for the most part, am still relatively strict with my eating habits, but I'm also not going to deny myself something that I want. So it's kind of, I tell my clients this all the time, that it's kind of like working out and eating healthy is kind of like brushing your teeth. Nobody tells you to do it. You just do it. And if you're consistent with it, there might be a night that you're in bed and you're comfortable and you're warm and you're falling asleep. And then you're like, oh, I forgot to brush my teeth. Dang. And then you're just like, you know what? I'll just do it in the morning. When you wake up in the morning, nothing's going to change because you're consistent with it. Whereas if you flip that and you're never consistent with it, and then one day you're like, maybe I should brush my teeth. And you brush it and you immediately look in the mirror and you're like, why don't I see a difference? I brushed my teeth. Why don't I see a difference? It's because you're not consistent with it. So in that term, when it comes to eating with me, I work out consistently. I eat healthy consistently. So if there's a day that I genuinely just like, I want to eat a burger, I want to eat Taco Bell, I want to eat pizza, whatever it may be, I'm going to allow myself to do that because I know at the end of the day, the very next day, I'm going right back to my routine. So it's not going to affect me. So that's where that comes from.
I have a lot of admiration for you because the only thing I consistently do is eat and eat really badly. But a lot of admiration for the way that you live your life, Kylie. I'll give you that.
Thanks.
Another topic, and this is my final topic I want to address with you, is more about identity as well, and especially with Kylie identity, because we seem to keep crossing paths, me more so getting in contact with you at different points in life. You turned 25 in October. I've now hit 30. As I said, enjoy your 20s. It gets really, you start feeling back pain when you get into your 30s. But you're a 98 baby, and that would technically make you Gen Z. I'm obviously a millennial. However, when I was scrolling through the internet doing my mundane things, I came across the term of zillennial. So if you've never heard of this is from Avery Hartman, right? For the Business Insider, said a study for US consumers, zillennial is anyone born between 1990 and 2000. I would never consider myself a zillennial. I was like 93 baby. I'm a millennial through and through. However, where do you stand? Are you a Gen Z? Are you a zillennial?
I don't necessarily. This is the thing. I would say like 1997 to about 2000. That 3-year point. Maybe 2001. I don't know. Those 3-4 years, I like the zillennial thing, but at this, like, because it's so accurate. We're not really in with the millennials. We're not really in with the Gen Z. We don't really identify fully with either one. We're just kind of there. So whenever somebody asks me if I'm Gen Z, I say no, but I think technically I am. But I'm not a millennial either. So there is
You're
an identity. crisis.
You're literally like the living, breathing body of this conversation that I've ever had. Like, 'cause I'm millennial through and through. Someone said I'm a zillennial, not a chance. I don't see anything with Gen Z. But you're in that like really period where you grew up and you might have just missed MySpace because you were too young, and you might have missed like the Game Boy because you were too young and you got the Nintendo DS. So you're in that weird period. But where do you feel like? Do you feel a Gen Z or a millennial?
I feel more um I feel more connected to millennials because of my upbringing. So as a kid, um we would play outdoors all the time. And I lived in the mountains, so we didn't have, like, with my mom when she grew up, she knew to go inside when the light posts came on.
Mhm.
We didn't have that. So it was literally just we would hear my mom yell and she would call out our names and we'd be somewhere in the neighborhood with didn't matter whose house we were at. You would hear the echo because it's a forest, it's a mountain. It also kind of like it just echoes very well out there. So my mom would call out for us and we'd come running back home, or just when it starts to get dark, that's when we came home. But like we would play outside all the time. I grew up with 3 boys across the street. They would come over and be like, "Can Kylie and Kimmer come out to play?" And we would like ride our bikes and play all these different games and build ramps and jump off of that and get scrapes and bruises. And we had a Game Boy. We also I would watch MTV when it was still just music videos.
Oh, what a time to be alive! What a time! To
Yeah.
be alive.
MySpace was a thing. I just was not allowed to be on it. My parents, they didn't. I was too young for it.
Yeah.
We had one computer, and it was a fat computer. The old, really big monitors with the fat
Gray
back
ones,
part
back,
of it.
yeah. Just like
Yep.
your TVs with a big back as well.
Exactly,
Kids,
and we had
kids
that
use it.
too. And so we would have one computer. It was the family computer. My sister and I would always have to fight over it because we had Facebooks. But then my mom would only allow us to go on Facebook after we'd done our homework and after she was done with the computer. So then we would only have like an hour on that. And like when we'd be watching TV shows, when a commercial break would come on, we would like go do something and then like try to sprint back over before the commercial was done, before like the show was back on. So it's like there's a lot of different milestones that I connect with millennials. I didn't get my first phone until I was in 6th grade or middle school, and it was a flip phone. And like but I went my entire life before that without a phone. And if I needed to call home, I'd have to call them from the school phone, or ask my friends' parents to call them or something like that. And I had all of my friends and family and neighbors' phone numbers in my head. We memorized all of them. I still, to this day, actually, the other day I was going to Staples and they asked if I had a phone number with them. I could not remember my own house phone number, but I remembered my best friend's house phone number. So then when she asked, she was like, "Oh, are you so and so?" I was like, "Wait, that's my best friend's mom's name. Like, why did I?" So I think along those terms, I connect with millennials a lot more than with Gen Z.
Yeah,
So
I feel very nostalgic hearing you say all that as well. For context as well, like I sent Adam something on TikTok which I'd seen, and this will make you feel old. It was a video of 3 young girls who are Taylor Swift fans, and they've put a CD in front of them, like a CD case. They don't know how
I've
to get the
seen it.
CD
They're
out.
trying to get it out. Oh my God.
I can't. I can't. I just can't. I honestly, I was like, no. But my entire life is like flashing before my eyes. I was like, no. I was like, no, no, no.
I know, when I saw it, I was like, to be fair, I think we all had the anxiety of breaking the CD.
Yeah.
But them trying to like, carefully, I'm like, just put your finger here, that over there. You just click it. It unclicks. Like, you're going to be fine. It will bend a little bit, but it will not break.
I feel old seeing those videos. I feel weird seeing like the signs as well. I think like one was like, this is a heart for Gen Z, and
Mhm.
obviously for us it's like that.
Wait,
It's like
Gen Z
there's
does
the
what?
heart. So your thumb, your 2 fingers like that. That's the Gen Z heart.
Oh my God. Wait. No.
Yeah.
Or the phone.
Yeah,
This
that's
is my phone,
ours.
not
Yeah, but
this.
theirs is like that.
Oh
And their
God.
pictures is like
Oh,
this
they do
instead.
this?
Yeah, they do this. for
Oh, I
phone.
thought they did this. Yeah, no,
They do
I think
this. They do this for pictures, which is a selfie, whilst ours is there we go. She's a millennial. We answered that question. She's not a Gen Zer. She is a millennial.
I am a millennial.
Case solved. Final part of the topic of this was, and we'll move on to the fan questions next, which was we had a very interesting conversation in the last episode, 2 episodes ago actually on StrangeCast, because me and Adam were talking about Chloe Price and where she's a bad friend, etc. But we also like thinking like me and Adam are both millennials, so we were like, well, what does Gen Z think of Chloe Price? And obviously you're here and you're a Gen Zer, technically speaking, but more of a millennial. But I want to know, what do you think like Gen Z perceives of Rachel? And then also as well, because like your performance is now going to be time capsuled, how do you think future generations will see it? Because we've had backlash towards shows like Friends from different generations because like they've seen it differently from like when we were growing up. But I wanted to know how you think other people perceive it, because technically you're Gen Z, but now we have Gen Alpha, which started in 2012. So there's a new generation coming through, just to make you feel old.
Yeah. I actually don't know how to answer that because I don't know necessarily. I think Gen Z would still love my character and Life is Strange because it's very. I don't know if this is the correct way to say this, but new age appropriate, if that makes sense. So it's an LGBTQ story with
Mhm.
LGBTQ characters. And it's very finding yourself and angstiness that everybody kind of connects with because we've all been through that in our teens.
Mhm.
So I think Gen Z would be very receptive to it, even looking back on it. Yeah, if anything, it's the older millennials or even on like my parents' age type of thing that would maybe look at it a little bit differently. But I think with how far we've come as a society and just being able to love people for who they are now, I think a lot of people would still connect with my character in Life is Strange in general. I don't know if that really answers
No,
that
I'm
question.
I'm a millennial and I can vouch for Rachel Amber because I love Rachel Amber. And I think it's a good way to
Yeah.
end that. It's a good way to end that conversation instead of making us feel a lot older than we should be at this point. Fan fan questions. There are a lot of them, and obviously we can't address all of them. And I've left some out because obviously there's StrangeCast with Kylie before you can go and check out. There's a Life After Strange episode with Kylie you can check out. You can read my interview from 2017 with Kylie. There's a lot of stuff we've spoke about before, and some of these are kind of fused with others. Some might actually overlap because the conversation has just gone the way that it has for us on this podcast. But I will start off with the first one, which was from Alex on Twitter, which was at Starry Geek. They put, my favorite scene is when Rachel is with Chloe in the forest and lights the picture on fire as she expresses her intense emotions and screams. What was it like recording that part? And was there any sort of actual internal feeling going into that scene that brought it out for the recording?
When it comes to acting, I think there's always a truth to the emotion and how we emote that. Um, so yes, there is truth behind it because you can always simplify what the scene is about and connect to it based off of vulnerability. How do I feel when I'm vulnerable? What do I act like when I'm feeling vulnerable? What do I act like if I feel embarrassed? Not everybody, clams up when they're embarrassed. Some people laugh uncontrollably when they're embarrassed. So it's kind of just how you connect personally to whatever the scene is about or what emotion is being present in that emotion in that scene. So yes to that. And I because we did talk about this, I love that scene so much. I loved filming it because, like I had said before, there was space to breathe. It didn't feel like there needed to be a rush behind it. It was two people in a very vulnerable spot, not necessarily knowing what the next step or what the next word or what the next sentence was going to be. And I think there is a freedom to that. And I just loved it. I love that scene so much.
It is a great scene, but yes, I hope you got that answer you wanted, Alex. Going to Twitter, Andrew Montez at Shadow Ansem 13 put, if there are any changes you would make to Rachel Amber, what would it be and why?
I wouldn't. I
Oh,
wouldn't. I think she's just perfect in the flaws, in the, great attributes that she has in everything. Because I mean, yeah, she's human. I think she went through a lot of really difficult things and handled them to the best of her ability in those moments. And the way she is with other people, I think overall she's a well-rounded person with flaws and ups and downs. And I wouldn't change that, because if we were to change something about her, she wouldn't be Rachel Amber as she is, so I don't think I would.
no, you can't change Rachel Amber. She is a flawed person, and flawed for a good reason as well.
Yeah.
Next question. Retrograde on Twitter at retrograde at YT retrograde. Sorry. What is your general perception of Rachel?
My general perception of her, again, is a deeply hurt and a deeply loving human being who has nothing but love and hopes for the world that she is in, but has flaws when it comes to reactions of traumatic situations. And that's not something that we can fault her for. At least I don't fault her for. But overall, just someone who wants to love so deeply but keeps getting deeply hurt. And so it's like that constant battle between her, the inner self and the inner monologue of like, these things are happening to me. How am I going to fix them? How am I going to react to them? How am I going to live with that? That's my general perception of hers. I just think she just wants to love.
She does want to love, and that kind of sort of relates to our next question, which is from I am Jazz on Twitter at Ali X Aliel Holt X. They put my favorite moment is when Rachel and Chloe are on the train playing Two Truths and a Lie. If there is something you wish the player knew about Rachel, what would it be?
That she's a Leo.
Has to be, isn't it?
Oh man, that's a great question. There's something you want the player to know. What would it be? That she sometimes has anger issues.
Yeah.
I feel like, hey, if I'm first meeting somebody and they just come out and tell me, by the way, I'm a great person, sometimes I have some anger issues, I'd be like, cool, thank you for the heads up. Like, I'd rather know before like it just comes out of left field,
Yeah, it's probably for the best. We heard the story about you and your sister in the last episode, like last time you came on. So yeah, those anger issues.
Yeah.
Anyway, next question. This is a bit of a meaty one. There's a lot of context as well, so bear with me. So this is from at Matt's YouTube channel 14451. I'm just giving it a plug there. Yeah, Matt's right. Question. Kylie, what do you think Rachel's spirit animal is? Some people say it's a doe. Some say it's a lion. Some believe it's the blue jay, and still others claim it's a dragon. We need to know relevant background info to refresh her memory. The doe supposedly represents Rachel's spirit guiding Max. The lion is because of her zodiac sign and her fierce personality. The blue jay represents her desire for freedom and escape. And she wears a blue feather earring. The dragon theory comes Rachel's thing with fire, the tattoo on her leg, and Samuel referring to Rachel as a dragon made of diamonds.
Ooh, I think the cooler answer is to say like the lion or the dragon.
Yeah.
The realistic one that I think I connect with more so is the blue jay. And I say that because of everything that we know about her, where she wants to leave. She wants to do so many things in life. She has so many aspirations. She's, she bounces around or flies around to different, groups of people and can fit in with them. Yet what happens with birds sometimes is they get caged. And I think that perfectly encapsulates her, is this bird who just wants to fly free and roam and just be who they are, yet is trapped in a cage. And that, I think that's really what happens with her in Arcadia.
I like that answer. What would be your spirit animal?
A horse. I don't care. I don't
No.
even care if it fits or not. Horses are my favorite animal.
So that's quite interesting. That's like immediate response as well.
I was quite literally the horse girl growing
Right.
up. I'm so embarrassed to say that. I was a horse girl. I grew up with horses. I draw horses all the time. I am obsessed with them. If we're on a road trip, I
Really?
will always point out the horses. So that, yes, a
Do you,
horse would be my spirit animal.
do you do horse riding?
I do.
Oh,
Not as
wow.
much anymore, but I used to, yeah.
You live and learn. New thing every day. Next question. I believe this comes from YouTube as well. Again, bear with me with this one. This is from @CZTeddy1507. They asked, I'm wondering what Kylie's opinion on Rachel's moral ambiguity is. Like, for example, does she think Rachel was truly in love with Chloe? If she manipulated her, or a bit of both? Were they ever truly together in her eyes? And did Rachel actually cheat on Chloe with Frank and Jefferson? Also, did Kylie take into account what little we got of Rachel's character in the first game prior to performing her, or did all of her knowledge about the character come from what the devs and directors told her for Before the Storm specifically? Not asking in accusatory way, of course, just curious to hear her personal feelings on a character who, despite having a whole game about her, is still pretty mysterious in the grand scheme of things. Wishing all involved a good day.
That's a great question. I think so. Regards to have I played the game before, or did I get the knowledge of Rachel from filming? When I first was filming, yeah, the only thing I got, because I didn't even know what this was until the first day of filming. Rihanna was the one that told me what this was, because everything was under code names. And so from filming Rachel, I only got what the breakdown said about her and what the directors were telling me about her. And then I did my research when I found out like what this was and played the game and read more about Rachel, and that helped as well. So it was kind of a bit of both. In regards to Rachel and Chloe's relationship, I do think it was a bit of both. I think maybe she found Chloe and saw something that she could utilize her for. And so she did maybe manipulate her in some sense right off the bat. But I think once she got to actually know Chloe on a deeper level, that's when the true connection came for Rachel. So I do think it's a bit of both. I don't think she cheated on Chloe with Frank. But I will say that I think there was some sort of manipulation in the beginning of her and Chloe. And then towards the end, obviously, I think she was madly in love with Chloe and truly wanted to escape Arcadia with her and live a life with her. I think that was very true and deep. But yeah, in the beginning, it could have been a false start.
I love your answer, and I also love the question saying that she's very mysterious as well, because that's a little bit like Kylie. And then she turns up and says her tweet was just to get demo reel footage, and it's like actually it wasn't as deep as it was as I thought it'd be, but very
man.
very relatable. Next question. @Chris Fluent Music on YouTube asks you, Kylie, did Kylie and Rihanna have to go back into the Deck 9 studio, or did they stay at home at the height of the pandemic to record their lines for the Wavelengths part? If they went to the studio, are there any funny stories or bloopers or cool stories during the Wavelength section?
So I can't speak for Rihanna because she, I believe, lives in Colorado. But yeah, it was in the middle of the pandemic. I was so excited when they reached out to me. I was ecstatic to be going in and doing something, and we all got COVID tests and everything was cleared up. We went into the studio. Well, I went into the studio. My funny story is I got there a little. No, maybe I was on time, but they were running a little behind, like a minute or two. Not anything crazy. They just opened the door like a minute or two past what the time I was there, and I go into the booth. There's only one person in the studio, one person in the booth. I have the headphones on. Webb is on like a Zoom call who's patched into this session. And so we're kind of talking to each other for a little bit and just saying our highs and, how you been and all that kind of stuff. And we go to record the lines and I just had like a laugh and I think one or two lines. And then he was like, "Great, okay, thank you. Like, it was so lovely to have you back in." And I took the headphones off and I said goodbye to the sound guy and walked out. And I looked at my watch and I was like, that was 12 minutes. 12 minutes. I was so grateful to be back in the studio. But I was just like, 12 minutes.
It's imagine if you messed up on the first take as well. That would have been quite the
Oh my
something.
god. Yeah, I was thinking about it later. I was like, man, I really should have messed up a lot of those lines so I could have been in there for like maybe a good 15 minutes,
Lessons. Kylie, moving away from Life is Strange for the moment. This is from Natalia Font, I'm going to say, on Instagram. They asked, have you worked on any new projects lately?
I have. I was in the studio, I want to say like 2 weeks ago, last week maybe. So I did do a little something in the studio and I have a phone call coming up that might be talking about another project in the future. I cannot talk about what those things are, but there are things that I'm working on outside of personal training.
Well, that's always good. And obviously, yeah, love NDAs. I signed my first NDA this year for something that I did. Yeah, it was a bit of an experience, that.
Yeah, it's kind of fun.
I'm not acting, don't worry about that. So, but I did have to sign one.
Yeah.
So completely understand. This is a bit of a different one as well. So this is from Stressed Out Souls on Instagram. I can relate to that handle quite a lot. They asked, what's your favorite song, album, artist at the moment?
Ooh. Oh gosh. See, this is where, because I work out a lot, I listen to a lot of music that I wouldn't normally listen to as like a relaxing, enjoyable thing. So I haven't really been listening to a lot of the music lately. I love a good Harry Styles, AJR. There was one, I don't remember her name, but there's a song called Jericho. Have you ever heard of that or heard?
I'm not looking. This is why I'm so angry Adam's not here. This is exactly why he's usually on this podcast. He covers all the music segments. Well, no, I'll have a quick look. I'll look at this up now.
It's so good. I forgot what her name is. Or their name. I think they're non-binary. Yes.
Right. Cool. Got that covered. Right.
Are you playing it?
No, I wasn't playing it. No.
Oh, I was like, I got closer. I was like, let me hear it.
No, I ain't getting hit by copyright.
Right. Yeah, so I love that song. There's some other ones out there that are really good. But also I just listen to a lot of movie scores, like a lot of movie scores. I'd listen to a lot of John Williams. Hans Zimmer sometimes, but that's more so when I'm feeling like, like ready to take on the world type thing. Cause he's very bassy and trumpets and horns, all that kind of stuff. Whereas like John Williams is very like whimsical and light and airy. And so most of the time I'll listen to John Williams. But sometimes I'll listen to Hans Zimmer. Other times I don't know how to pronounce his name. Like Ramen Dejal. He did Game of Thrones. I think it's like Ramen Diwali or something like that. But I listen to a lot of that type of music. That's pretty
One of,
consistent.
one of my recommendations for you is one of my favorite soundtracks is between Hans Zimmer and Lorne Balfour, and they did the soundtrack for Beyond Two Souls, which was a Quantic Dreams game from 2013, starring
Oh.
Elliot Page. I would recommend it if you get the chance to listen to it. It is like quite seminal for me. Very good
Okay.
soundtrack. It's just a cool collaboration between two really great composers, Lorne Balfour and Hans Zimmer. And it's just like an immense soundtrack. So I would recommend that personally if you get a chance.
I will definitely have to check that out.
And before we get into the next question, because obviously it keeps being laced in here, and I used to watch it as well, Game of Thrones. Did you watch the Game of Thrones spin-off show?
Yep, House of Dragon. Watched it.
How did you find it?
I think it was slow in the beginning, but it picked up towards the end, especially the very last episode.
Yeah.
I don't want to do a spoiler, but I feel like everybody should have already seen it if they were planning on watching it at this point. But the last episode, I think even the last scene is when it happened, was such like all right, we're back to Game of Thrones. Let's do this. Let's do this.
We're back on top form.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Whereas before it was just like it was a bunch of talking. And I loved it. It was still very I still paid attention, but I liked at the end when things got pretty intense.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. I'm the same. I'm excited. I'm finally excited for Game of Thrones again, but that's another conversation because we've got a couple more questions and then we'll round this off and I can let you go because I know we've been taking for ages. We've gone for ages. So Crunchy Gelatin on Instagram asks, did you do anything to get into? Yeah, no. I've laughed a lot at all these.
About Crunchy Gelatin, and I was like, I don't know.
This is like my favorite part about bringing guests on and looking at all these Instagram handles and who I'm like what an interesting bunch of people. They asked, did you do anything to get into the right headspace before recording for Rachel? Also, are there any songs that remind you of her or any character?
I think what helped me get into the scenes is thinking about the truth behind what's happening in that scene. So, for instance, like with the dinner scene with her family and Chloe, when she throws the salad bowl through the table, I think that's something that there, like I said before with her, there's just an intense wound behind all of this, and there's a lot that's building up, and I think we've all been there where there's just so many things in life that are building up and building up and building up, and then you're just like, I don't know how to handle this right now, and I'm being pushed over an edge right now listening to whatever's going on, or maybe nothing's going on but you're still being like and so I think just thinking about what the raw emotion is in the scene and why this is happening, and thinking about all the previous things that she's been through and how do I relate to that, and then just what is the bare emotion of this. That's kind of how I'm able to get into it, is just being very specific with it and not just thinking about like, oh, I'm supposed to be mad in this, I'm supposed to be yelling in this, and I say these words. It's really diving deep into the specificity of each scene, of the why and where and when, literally all of these things, and being able to tap into that more specifically. And what was the other question to that?
Any songs that remind you of her or any character?
Right. Any songs. I still listen to the Daughter album that
it's so good.
they came out with BTS. I love that album. I'm so serious. I still have that on my Spotify playlist. Truthfully, anything that sounds like the Daughter songs, I will automatically think of Life is Strange. I don't think anything has really reminded me of Rachel specifically when I listen to songs, but anything that resembles any Daughter songs from that album, I'll immediately just be like, Life is Strange, what?
Yeah. No, good shout. By the way, I once said to Adam as well, because he was like, talking about the essence of life. I said to him, I was like, I've got that in my Apple Music along with all the Daughter stuff, and I'm like, sometimes I don't know if I'm listening to Before the Storm soundtrack or your music, and I was like, that's the best compliment I can ever give you. And he was over the moon over it. So I was like, yeah, it's truthfully how I feel. Next question is quite funny. It's from Benjamin Sylvester on Instagram. They asked, it's been 6 years and 3 months since the first episode of Life is Strange Before the Storm released. Does it still affect your life now? Do you think about it often, or does it ever get mentioned? And before she answers that, Benjamin, she's on this podcast. And every year she gets an email from me saying, can you come on this podcast to talk about Life is Strange? So yeah.
That's literally what I was about to say. I'm like, well, I'm doing this. Like, of course it affects my life still. The fact that so many of my followers are from when the game originally was released. I remember the night that the first episode was released, my friend and I were in my bedroom and we were just like going through all of the YouTube comments and playing the game, and then we slowly through the night saw my Instagram gain 1,000 followers in one night, and it was the craziest thing. It was insane, and it was so cool. And to this day, I have people like I went to this place called Sandbox, which is a VR place in like Woodland Hills, and we played a VR game there, and there's a woman that is in the room with us, and at the very end we were leaving and taking off our equipment, and we were watching like the little trailer that they make. They kind of go back and forth between like you actually in the studio area with your VR stuff and then what your character was doing in the game that you were playing, so it was kind of cool. And as we were leaving, we're saying goodbye, and she goes, excuse me, your character is my favorite, and the game just means so much to me. And I straight up, like, we did not mention Life is Strange once. It was just purely based off of my voice that she recognized, and I thought that was the coolest thing. And that wasn't even the first time that that's happened, and every single time that happens, I'm just so like shocked that you guys have such a good ear. But yeah, it still affects my life, and I'm very grateful for it. And I think it's also opened up a lot of doors acting wise, which I'm very grateful for. And just the immense love and support that I've gotten throughout these years from all of them, all of you guys. Like, it's such a cool and unique and humbling experience. And I know I say that every time that it's humbling, but it really is. It's humbling because I don't know. I don't know if that's a great answer, but like yes, it affects my life, and I love it, and I love you guys every single day because of it. But yeah.
Yeah, your voice is very. I remember listening to WWE 2K20 trailer, and that was like years after I'd left the industry. Just watching generally, I was like, this girl sounds awfully familiar. I was like, there's only one person it can be. I was like, yeah, it's who I thought it was gonna be.
And that was the other thing, is when the WWE trailer came out, I was not attached. They didn't attach me to it on IMDb yet. So nobody knew I was a part of it. And in the comments, I started reading it, and people would be like, is that Rachel Amber? Or like, is that Kylie? I'm like, oh my gosh, you guys are so crazy. Like, you can hear my voice. That's insane. So
Yeah,
that was kind of cool. And I wanted to like them. I wanted to like those comments. I wanted to be like, yes, that's me. Like, yes. But I couldn't at the time. But anyway, yeah.
Last 4 questions and then we're done here.
Mm-hmm.
So Herbert on Instagram asked, hi Kylie, I love how you portrayed Rachel, turning an enigma into a person that so many people, including myself, grew to love. BTS just has something about it that keeps me coming back again and again. My question, what do you think happened between Rachel and Frank? Was there something romantic going on, or did Rachel's heart belong to Chloe? Or what do you like to think? I think you might have covered this in the other question, but...
Yeah, I think there could have been some sort of emotional connection to Frank. But at the end of the day, I truly don't think anything happened physically between them. And I think that kind of opens up the debate of emotional and physical cheating. Both are very valid. And I think in that sense, maybe there was some lines possibly being crossed. But at the end of the day, Rachel was too in love with Chloe to do anything like that with Frank. Yeah, I don't think anything happened there.
Next question.
I'll stand by her.
Next question. Beth Roswell on Instagram asked, how does it feel knowing that the character you brought to life has people relating to her and confiding in her? Personally, Rachel Amber really changed my life, and your excellent performance plays a key part in her character.
Repeat the first part. Sorry.
How does it feel knowing that the character you brought to life has people relating to her and confiding in her?
I love that. I absolutely love that. And I think that because when I grew up, there were characters on TV shows or movies that even I connected to and truly looked up to in a sense. And to be able to be on the receiving end of that and having people connect with Rachel is such a unique feeling. And it's almost like a responsibility in a sense. And it's such a great responsibility to have. And again, it's very humbling. And that is something that I would love for people to connect with because, like I said before, she is just a human. She's a human.
Mm-hmm.
She has, really great things about her. She has flaws, and every single one of those things is okay. And she has a lot of emotions and reactions that a lot of people, I think, can connect with because there is a sense of control in certain aspects of her life, and there is a sense of no control in other aspects. And to sit here for me and say, like, I have complete control in every aspect of my life with anything that's thrown at me is insane. I'm not. There's times where I just purely react and then think about it later. But like, I purely react because sometimes I'm hurt by something, or I'm surprised by something, or I get angered by something. And that's just all part of being human. So for people to look at Rachel and connect with her on such a level, I get it. I do. I really do. She's just nothing but a pure human that has so many things, so many emotions and so many flaws and so many, great things. And I know I keep saying that, but like truly just when it comes to the development of a character, I think they couldn't have done better with her.
No, they got them down to the acting performance. They got everything down to a T-nail. I'll say that now. I think it was aside from Max, I think it was like the perfect character casted all the way down through, and everything with her spot on. And speaking of Max Caulfield 95 on Instagram asked, "Do you identify with Rachel? Greetings."
Do I identify with Rachel? Greetings?
No, do you identify with Rachel and greetings? So I was hello to all
Oh,
of us. Yeah.
I was like, what are Rachel's greetings?
No.
I do identify with her. Just kind of like what I had just said in the last question. It's there's a lot of aspects about her that I think anyone can connect with, and I am one of those people. I think that's kind of a must for me to be able to voice a character like her, is to really connect on a lot, if not all of the things that she is. And like I said in the last, I think it was like last year's interview, where I did grow up and I had anger issues, and so there is an aspect of that I connect with. I have it under control for the most part now. Now I think I just internalize it and go sit somewhere.
I don't believe that, by the way. I've seen some of those like workout videos and the boxing and stuff. There's too many like emotions getting thrown out.
Those are fun. Those are fun. I genuinely enjoy doing those. I'm
wondering whose face you're looking at when you punch that bag. That's my.
Oh my gosh, no. When it comes to like one bag, that's where you can kind of get the anger out. But with the mitts, oh gosh. I'm just focusing on like, is it the left one? Is it the right one? Am I ducking now? I don't know. I gotta get this right. But no, but yeah, I guess, sure. If there are some certain times that if I do get angered, I don't react on it too much. I've gotten better at not reacting. I've gotten a lot better at just taking in what's just happened, recognizing that I'm angry about it, and I might go work out to be able to kind of get that feeling, that energy out of my body think about how I want to now approach the situation and respond to it. And that helps a lot. Like, I know a lot of people talk about the gym being their therapy. I agree with that. And I also have a therapist, so I get both. So there's been a lot of growth in that department, in being able to respond the way that I would prefer to respond, instead of reacting in a raw way, but sometimes destructive way. So
I like that response. I like that you have a therapist as well. I'm actually going to transition into counselling. I start next year, so I'm going to start studying for it next year. So nice little mention from me.
That's what my sister's doing.
Oh,
My
really?
sister's, yeah.
Oh, yeah. Well, I'm done with journalism. I'm done with it so much. I'm like, I need to go into something else, and therapy really changed my life. So I'm like, I want to do that now. But as I said, everyone, thank you for all the questions. There's one final one. I felt it was very fitting to end with this, but as I said, we've covered a lot of them and quite a lot of them overlap. But to everyone, thank you for submitting. Either way, Amy Lucia 10, you have the honors of the final question, and it's very simple. Does Chloe belong with Rachel or Max? This is when the dislike button gets smashed, what she says now.
Yeah. Oh no. I'm gonna be biased and say Rachel. I also think it could be neither of them. That she could grow up and realize that, you know, maybe these two people were and are very important to her life and how she became who she is at that point in time. But maybe she just was learning from them what things she wants and what things she doesn't want, and learned how to speak up for herself and do the things that she wants to do. And then maybe she goes out into the real world and finds a different person that is truly her match. So I think there's no right answer. I think it's just wherever life brings Chloe, that's where she is meant to be. And I think if that's with Rachel, then great. If that's with Max, then great. If it's with neither of them, great. If it's with both of them, great. I don't know. So that's kind of the way I think about that. And that's the way I kind of live my life, is I don't regret anything, because all of those instances that I could regret have created who I am now, because I learned from those things and I don't repeat those things. So I don't regret things because I love who I am. And if that's Chloe's version of living her life, where it's like, you know, finding a true love, she might have just learned a lesson from them, or she might live the rest of her life with one of them. So I don't think there's one right answer.
Very fitting way to end there. And obviously, I'm very time conscious of how much time we have, and I want to close out the show. But one final question, a bonus question for me, and it is that: is your mum still your biggest fan as an actor?
Oh, yeah, she is. She totally is. She will be for the rest of my life. I already know that. She talks about me all the time.
It always gets me, that story when you tell me like she went and actively looked for the Before the Storm game and then took a photo and said, "Oh, look what I found." It's like, no, you actually went over and found that. You didn't just stumble on it.
I know. She still very much is like that. She'll talk about me to her coworkers, and like there's times where if I'm on the phone with her and her coworker comes in, she'll be like, "Oh, I'm on the phone with Kylie, like she's doing this thing," or like they'll literally be like, "Hi Kylie, how is X, Y, and Z going?" And I'm like, "Mom, I signed an NDA. You can't just be talking to people like that."
Oh, bless her. But yes, I think that's a perfect way to end here. Kylie, thank you so much for coming on here. It's great to catch up with you and to demystify the tweet that you had sent. A great way to wrap that conundrum up. But yeah, thank you so much for coming on, and we'll wrap up here. Again, guys, if you enjoyed the episode, please do drop a like, subscribe, turn on notifications, help support the channel. And use StrangeCast you can access via all podcast services, so Spotify with the video version, everything else we're all on there. Kylie, one more time, thank you so much. People know where to find you on Instagram. Are you still doing Cameo?
I am still doing Cameo, not as much anymore, but I do still have that available.
So yeah, if you want your Kylie Brown fix, you want your Rachel Amber fix, go to Cameo. You can find Kylie on there as well. So that's it. But we'll wrap up here. We'll see you in the next episode for later December. Again, one more time, Kylie, thank you so much for coming on.
Thank you so much. And bye, everybody. Thank you for being here. Thank you for watching. And thank you for always supporting.
Take it, guys. See you later.
Ready for the mosh pit, shaka bra.